All right. And you ready? All right.
Hello everyone, it's great to be here. I'm Harini and I'm a director in quality assurance and test automation. So today we're going to be talking about how teams can build intelligent automated test suites for modern microservices, because we are at an age where we're utilizing a lot of microservices and we're trying to see how automation can catch up. And as we know, microservices can become really complex. The architecture can be complex, and which means that there will be a lot of places where a leakage is possible. And when it comes to testing, it's going to be risky, right? Because we have a lot of places where you want to make sure that the integration points are working and all that, and just identifying failure points within the services, like more than that, how to identify breakage is more important. And when it comes to traditional testing, this becomes more of a challenge because they can be manual, they can be more slow, and there are no common standards that are followed in traditional testing, and the integration test can be very brittle. So that's why I would suggest to follow a centralized regression platform kind of an approach, which would be a more smarter way to test these cross-service functionality at scale. And why do we need something called this kind of a centralized regression platform? So one is duplication can be eliminated, and it's going to reduce the drift. Consistency between the test cases is going to be increased, and also among the different services. So the approach that we followed is something of similar to a monorepo, where the code and the tests, they are more centralized, and by following this, it's going to promote like more reusability, and also if there are any dependencies, managing those dependencies is going to be easier that way. So for example, let's say we have libraries for like browser integration or any kind of secrets, making them more standard is going to be much easier. And with the help of this kind of an approach, you just trigger at one place, and it's going to be triggering all the downstream tests, and the orchestration is going to be much easier that way. Okay. And so the way that we're going to be doing here is following a smarter approach by parallelizing, adding like more smarter test data and trying to mock the data so that our test cases are more intelligent and they're able to handle with scale. So when it comes to contract testing, we want to make sure that any kind of schema mismatches are caught earlier in the process than later. So that's why it's very important to integrate contract tests within the integration, not just the functionality. And in addition to that, if any of the test cases, they fail, we try to make sure that there is retry logic. And if there is any flaky behavior, we are trying to isolate those failures so that we are able to prevent all the test cases from failing. Test categorization. So this is where it's important to understand the depth of testing. So for example, if it's important to categorize the tests, like specifically smoke tests or regression tests or whatever, and we want to make sure that these results are given into our CI/CD pipeline so that we are able to get more faster feedback. And when it comes to dashboards, we want to make sure that we are able to track which tests are passing, which tests are failing, so that we are able to be more accountable, and it's also going to give more transparency as to where we are in terms of test automation, and also helps us prioritize. On top of these integration tests, it's also important to add in security of sensitive data. So instead of just validating the functionality, we want to make sure that we are adding in aspects like security, access control, and such. And when it comes to microservices, scaling is very important. So we want to make sure that these tests are highly scalable. And when we come to the lessons learned as a wrap-up, we want to make sure that we start small, and orchestration is very important. As much as possible, use shared libraries across these tests, and make sure that the overall teams are following this kind of standardization. And in addition to that, metrics is very important. So we want to make sure that we are having enough metrics to identify the time saved, how many bugs have been prevented. And for teams to start, I would say it's a good idea to begin centralizing and standardizing the tests, and adopt
to shared libraries as much as possible. Thank you.